Hello friends, welcome to the unboxing video of the Simon Says Stamp November 2020 card kit. This is the Big Thanks Autumn card kit. I'm so excited, it just got here. And I have been obsessively checking my post office box for this to arrive because I couldn't wait for this one to get here. So, ooh, what kind is this? It looks like mango. Oh, yes. Anyway, okay, candy. I'm excited. So this is the Big Thanks Autumn kit. In this kit is all sorts of fabulous things. Biggest one being is the stamp set, which was the number one thing I was excited about. This is the Big Thanks Autumn 6x8 stamp set. Right there. Basically a big floral image, except it's sunflowers and like fall leaves. I love it. Love it. Love the sentiments, love that big thanks. Thank you sets always for me. Big, huge love. So yeah. There's not a coordinating die set yet. If memory serves right, I think Heidi even already addressed that though and said they will be releasing a wafer die set. A lot of times they'll try to release a die set at the same time as the kit because a lot of people like to buy it together, even for like big sets like this. But that with manufacturing and everything right now, everything's just, it's hard. So I think there will be a coordinating die set for this coming out soon. So anyway, in the kit you get the set. There are these really fun transfer sheets. Simon has done a bunch of these in releases so far, and they're really neat because they are printed onto acetate with a laser printer so you can foil them. You can put a sheet of foil on them and then run them through a laminator machine or the Mink machine. So we've got like Happy Thanksgiving one. Really cute. So very thankful. And then sending cozy vibes. So you get 3 of those. And then you also get, because this is with foil, there's this pack of DecoFoil foil transfer sheets. So those will work with these. These will work also with anything that's been laser printed. You can, you know, run this foil, put this foil on top of and run it through, again, a laminating machine or a Mink machine. And then there's also like, you can do adhesive and that sort of thing as well. There's also the Heidi Swap toner ink and ink pad set, which I do have. I just haven't had a chance to use it yet. But yeah, there's so many fun ways to use foil. But you get a pack of 5 different colors of foil. Very fall colors. I have a thing about, I love like browns and bronzes and golds and stuff for autumn. And then a pop of like aqua or teal. There's just something about that that just, oh, it's so pretty. So these will work with these transfer sheets, so you can foil it and then like use them to create shaker cards, anything like that. So you get that. And then there's this absolutely gorgeous pattern paper. This is the this is P13 is the brand, and it's called the 4 Seasons Autumn 6x6 pattern paper. Like even just that. Oh, color. Just beautiful, beautiful papers. Absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, you get 12 sheets of this paper. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. So you get 12 sheets of that. You get a, where'd it go? It's hiding. There it is. A sheet of the Simon Says Stamp Gratitude Sentiment Strips. So these are nice to trim down and adhere. These are also laser printed onto cardstock, so you technically can foil these as well. It can get a little iffy. I think you have to make sure your foil machine's really heated up just because these are so small. But it is possible. Usually though, I just prefer just trimming them down, and sometimes I'll ink, like either with a Copic marker or like dye inks, whatever, just to make it match whatever my project is. Trim it down, stick it on. So these are just convenient. I love it. So you get one of those. There are 3 Simon Says Stamp A2 pre-scored Audrey Blue note cards. So all you gotta do is fold them and you're good to go. So you get 3 of those in Simon's Audrey Blue cardstock, which I love. You get that. You get a pack of my all-time favorite, Darice foam strips. These I had a wonderful person had sent me, because when these first were released, they were impossible to get. And they sold out everywhere, and I absolutely love them. And then someone sent me like, I think 10 packs of them, and I'm still using them. But yeah, these are narrow little foam strips. I love them. Love them. They come in so handy. They're great for adhering sentiments. They're great for shakers. That's also why I think they're included in this kit, because you can foil these backgrounds, and then the adhesive strip could kind of fit like right under, or you could like cut a frame, a cardstock frame if you wanted as well. And then use that, pop it up a bit, and then we'll get to that in a second. So love, absolutely love these. They are so handy. So you get a pack of Darice strips, you get 3 Simon Says Stamp envelopes. Love their envelopes. You get 3 A2 envelopes. And then you get a pack of this fabulous sequin mix. This is the Autumn Sequin Mix. So bronzy, coppery gorgeousness. Love. And then last, but certainly not least, of course, you get some Simon Says Stamp cardstock in dark chocolate, burnt orange, and then Desert Storm, which is my go-to, especially in the fall. I've been ordering extra packs of Desert Storm cardstock because it's one of my absolute favorites. So that is the kit in a nutshell. It is fabulous. As always, I will link to the kit, and then I'll link to everything that is available individually as well. So you can check that out in the description box below the video. And then we will get to making a card with all of this. So of course, I went with a Slimline card, and I pulled out my big memory Misty, the big 12x12. This isn't necessary for this card. I've shown, you know, other cards where it really comes in handy. But when I'm first starting a project and I actually have, you know, the clean space on my desk, it's kind of nice to pull out this big, huge Misty. And it does make it a little bit easier, but this all would fit in the normal size Misty. I'm flaunting, I guess, you know, it's like, ooh, look at my big Misty on my clean desk. And then as things go on, I actually switch to the other one because I don't have space. But anywho, I took this large image from that stamp set, and I'm stamping it onto some watercolor paper. And I'm using VersaFine Clair Acorn ink. I usually use Nocturne, which is the black, all the time. And then more often than not, I would use Fallen Leaves VersaFine Clair, which is just a very dark brown, like almost black. And those are kind of the two I will switch between the most. But this time I pulled out this Acorn ink. It's a very warm brown, and I just thought it would be really pretty with these floral images. So I stamped it onto the watercolor paper. And then I'm heat embossing it with Wow's Clear Matte Dull embossing powder. I've shown this in a bunch of videos. It isn't necessary. You don't have to heat emboss your images when you're watercoloring. I just like it because it gives me that little bit of a raised edge. That way I don't have to be as careful because it holds things in place without, you know, colors bleeding into each other, that sort of thing. And it's just kind of habit. And I like the Clear Matte Dull embossing powder because it gives me that raised edge, but because it's a dull matte finish, you don't see it really at all. Whereas just a regular clear embossing powder, you have that shiny finish. So it's just personal preference, but I've been really enjoying this. So with this piece of watercolor paper, I stamped this image twice since I'm doing a Slimline card and heat embossed it. And then for the watercoloring, I'm just using my Prima Tropicals palette. It had a lot of colors. I was very inspired by that pattern paper in the kit. Just love it. Love the fall colors, but that like pop of like pinky, purpley, magenta sort of colors. It just... Oh. So the Prima Tropical palette was perfect for this. And I super sped this up. I didn't do anything groundbreaking. The only thing I did in the beginning was I just put clean water on my brush down first. And then did, you know, that messy outside of the lines sort of thing. And then I just went in and added color. A light layer first of whatever color I was doing, like all the petals of the sunflowers. And then went in with a little bit of a darker shade. So I mixed a yellow with a bit of the brown and added that little bit of definition. And then the larger leaves, I did kind of a mix of the red sort of color, added a bit of brown, I added some purple, love. And then all the other greenery, I just kind of kept to a simple green. And then I added brown to the one just to, you know, pull in a little bit more of that brown color. So went along and painted all this. I was like zoned right out. I'm still dealing with this cold. So yeah, I was zoned out listening to, I'm on the 3rd Outlander book. I think I mentioned this before. I love listening to books on Audible when I'm like watercoloring and that sort of thing. And I've read all those books, but having them on Audible is so nice because I'll just zone out that. Or I have Netflix going, you know, that sort of thing. So anywho, did all my painting, added some splatter with those watercolors. And then I had to add a bit of gold splatter because of course you have to. I have my Gonzai Tombi Starry Colors little palette here, and I mixed up this one gold. You have to add some water to it and really stir it up with your paintbrush. Any sort of metallic type watercolor, it really needs to be mixed up. It's the nature of it. The pigments want to settle, that sort of thing. So mixed up really good, splattered it heavily, let it completely dry. Takes a little while with like thick splatter like that. Let it dry. I removed the painter's tape. I trimmed it down a little bit with my paper trimmer. And then, and I trimmed down with a paper trimmer because I never did find, people have been asking me like, update us when you find the Simon Says Stamp Slimline nested rectangles wafer die set. Yeah, no, I still haven't found it. It's been over a month. And as of doing this voiceover, the second set I ordered arrived today. And karma didn't step in. I still haven't found the original set. I don't know how that's even possible. Still don't know where but now I have the new one and I'm really happy. So if I'd had it when I made this, I would have used the wafer die set. But anywho, I trimmed down that panel. I trimmed down the Desert Storm cardstock that came in the kit to 7 inches by 8.5. And then I scored it at 3.5 there with my bone folder. So that'll make my 3.5 inch by 8.5 inch Slimline card. And then I put this back in my big old Memory Misty. And I'm going to stamp that big floral image again, this time just using Simon's khaki ink. I have 2 favorite inks I like to stamp things with on the inside of cards with Desert Storm cardstock, and it's Simon's khaki ink or Simon's cobblestone ink. The cobblestone is more of almost like a warm gray kind of a color, a browny gray, which is really nice, and then the khaki is more like almost like a craft color. So it just depends on my mood which one I grab, but this time it was khaki. And then I stamped one of the sentiments from that set with that VersaFine Claire Acorn ink. And then while I had my big old Memory Misty out, I also pulled out one of the grocery bag Slimline envelopes and stamped that flower onto it with the khaki ink as well, just to make everything matchy-matchy. So I've got my envelope stamp. I put the big old Memory Misty away. I could have used it for this, but I'm actually editing things kind of out of order. And at this point, I didn't have space. So I'm just using my regular Misty for this part, but you don't need multiples of all the things. But anywho, I am stamping the large thanks sentiment from the set many times. I'm inking it up with clear embossing ink, and I'm stamping it onto some of that dark chocolate cardstock. And inking it up and stamping it several times because it's a big solid sentiment set like this. Or solid sentiment. Yeah, anyway. And then I'm coating it with Simon's Antique Gold embossing powder, melting that with my heat tool. And then I trimmed that down with my paper trimmer. And then I took the watercolor panel and I put that in the Misty. Used the thanks sentiment just kind of as a visual guide here. And then lined up another sentiment from that set. And used my anti-static powder tool. And then I'm inking that up with clear embossing ink and stamping it multiple times because I don't want to press really hard because it's watercolor paper, but I don't want to lose the detail of the sentiment. So inked it up and stamped that several times, and then heated it up with that same antique gold embossing powder. So the front says, "Thanks so much for thinking of me." So for the big thanks sentiment, I just cut down a couple more pieces of that same cardstock and layered them together just to give a little bit of dimension to this sentiment, but I didn't want to pop it up with foam tape or anything like that. I wanted to give it that tiny little bit, and this is kind of the way to go. I usually forget to do things like this. It's just such a habit to use, you know, foam dimensionals and foam tape and all that stuff. But yeah, layering a couple pieces of heavyweight cardstock pops things up and it gives it some stability and dimension. It just works. So I did that. And then on the back of the panel, I used Simon's Big Mama foam tape. Just coated the whole back of this. And then I added the craft tacky glue to the back. I peeled off the backing and then added the craft tacky glue to the back of the foam tape. The only reason I do this sometimes, I don't do it all the time, but sometimes it's nice because it gives you those couple of seconds of wiggle room. Because if you work with foam tape at all, you know, the second it touches the card base or whatever you're adhering it to, it is set there. Like, it ain't moving anywhere, you know, you gotta line it up immediately. Whereas if you add that little bit of liquid adhesive, it gives you just that little bit of wiggle room before things are just in place. So I did that and adhered it to the card base. And then I'm using some of the sequins that came in the kit, just kind of sprinkling these onto the front of this card. And then I'm going to adhere them into place with dabs of craft tacky glue and just using my little Studio Caudia embellishment wand to get these adhered into place. Also using my fingers for this because they are cupped sequins, and sometimes they just like to cling to all the things. So just decent little dabs of the adhesive to press them into, and then once I let them dry, they're not going anywhere. So that finished off this card. Like I said earlier during the unboxing, I will have links to everything in the description box below the video, as well as on my blog. On my blog, it's picture links. It's easier to navigate. I'll link to the kit, everything individually, etc., etc. So you can check that out below if you're interested. Thank you all so much for watching, for subscribing, for thumbs upping, commenting, all of it. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!